Furries have a reputation, and in the eyes of many, if not most people outside of their fandom and communities, it's a kind of uncomfortable one. There's something about grown-ass people dressing up in big, colourful mascot costumes that feels weird, at least outside of the exactly one socially acceptable context for that behaviour: sports ball games. Furries do cringy things like bark and yip at each other. They act childish and goofy, patting one another on the head and booping each other's noses. And let's not shy away from the elephant in the room, shall we? Any Google search involving furry stuff will very quickly lead you to, well, let's just keep it monetization safe and call it fan art expressing a rather specific attitude towards the words playtime. And that's the stereotype that I think bothers us the most, right? Because culturally, basically all of us, almost without exception, grew up watching anthropomorphic animal characters be cute and wholesome and childish and playful and funny and for kids. And taking that kind of formative memory, that expectation and that aesthetic and cultural context and making it provocative just kind of hits wrong for a lot of people. And maybe it feels like a perversion of a core memory, something precious and formative from our shared childhoods, and it can be confronting and unsettling to have that disrupted. Hello again, I am Blunty, and I too stand amongst the throngs of people who just do not get furries, or at least didn't. But I got roasted by furries yesterday, in public, broadcast worldwide, on live stream, and it was just so mean, ow! But also in good fun. So pitchforks and torches away, hey? But to get to that part of the story, we need to take a walk. And I really hope you stick with me here. I know the subject, for a lot of you out there, it's something you feel weird about. Me too. And that's the point. There's a journey here to me being mocked and ridiculed by a very bottom energy grey puppy and a green doggo whose blood I suspect is made entirely out of undiluted Monster Energy drink syrup. And I'd love for you to listen to it all, because it is an interesting journey, I think. Now, furries. A lot of us find them weird, right? No question. Personally, I've never been mean to them about it, like some people seem to make a sad little reactionary sport out of online, the anti-furry stuff. But that's not me. That's not who I am. I absolutely know what it feels like to not fit in, and I've known it and have felt it and have been treated as other for my entire life. My fellow autistic folk out there know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? So, I've always been empathetic towards other kinds of people who don't fit in with vanilla societal expectations. I try my best to be kind, even in my ignorance and confusion, even if I find it hard to find common ground, as is the case with furries. I know the value of receiving that kindness, even if the other party doesn't understand me properly, so I try and offer that to other people. It just feels like a decent human thing to do. But the thing about me is I really don't like ignorance. In others, it's frustrating, absolutely, but in myself, it can become a compulsion to solve, a literal compulsion. And here's the thing about furries. Over the many years of being a content creator, I kept coming across people with furry avatars and the like, in my comments here on YouTube, in my live stream chat over on Twitch, and over in my followers and responses on Twitter. Just furries, they kept popping up everywhere. Same thing in online social spaces like VR chat, which I've been using on and off since like 2016. Lots of furries there. And these people I was meeting, these furries, simply didn't align with the cliches and stereotypes of furries that I kept seeing repeated everywhere online. This is what furries are. This is who they are. Ooh, gross, creepy, ooh, cringy. Ugh. Far from being hypersexual, gross little cringe creeps, I was consistently finding people who were kind, generous, sensitive, accepting, gentle. And I've tried several times over the last few years to get to the bottom of this discrepancy, this seemingly utter contradiction between the stereotype and the reality that I was personally experiencing. Because as much as ignorance bothers me, and my own ignorance most of all, contradictions on this scale bother me way more. Like my brain does not sit with them. Gotta solve it, gotta figure it out. But I have failed again and again to penetrate the idea of a furry and align it with my personal experience of interacting with them. I've tried, in earnest I've tried. Like the idea that some people fetishize feet. I just kept putting it on the shelf of things I would just never properly understand. I do not get it, and that annoyed me, but it is what it is. Just shrug. But alongside being curious, I'm also frequently stubborn, so I would try again and again every so often. This time, though, most recently, over the last couple of months, I think I finally found the right angle, the right path to walk down, where I found the right combination of clues and context to help me properly understand furries. I've got a document stacked with notes and thoughts and whatnot, and I've been trying to find a way to organize that into a format that could make an interesting video of some kind, or a series of videos even, there's lots of notes, so that I can maybe share what I learned and how I learned it, and dispel some of the mystery for other folk out there too who just do not get furries. Because they do get a lot of really unnecessary and unearned hostility online. So if I can sort of remove some of that for somebody out there, it feels like something worth trying. So anyway, I've watched a lot of furry content recently. I've listened to them tell their own stories. I've hung out in furry-hosted Twitch streams. I've watched documentaries. I've interacted with them. I've got to know their vibe and personalities better. I found a lot of common ground with a lot of them and ways to really personally relate to them. Outside of the furry stuff, a lot of them are really huge geeks like me, so, we can geek out about other stuff. And I even hung out almost exclusively in furry-specific VR chat worlds for the last few weeks whenever I would go into VR chat. And to do that, I needed to fit in. I needed a furry avatar, a fursona. Not as a disguise, not to sneak amongst them. I was in fact very open about why I was there and what I was interested in learning, but I wanted to wear an appropriate avatar simply out of respect for their spaces. I didn't want to be an unnecessary disruption, a distraction, something that stood out. And while I very quickly discovered that not being in a furry avatar in a furry world is actually perfectly fine by them, they really do not care at all so long as you're not being an a-hole, I still wanted to find a furry avatar. I considered finding something that felt right to put on as part of my education. My thinking was, it'd help me understand them better, get in the headspace of what it means to adopt a fursona, see that process from the inside. And it turns out that's way more complicated and far more broad and personal for every individual furry than I'd ever imagined. For some furries, it's like a whole cloth created character that they embody and play when they suit up. It's a performance. For others, it's just an animal for whom they relate to or like aesthetically even. For others, it's an emotional or spiritual connection they feel towards an aspect of a particular species. Which puts me in the mind of how a lot of cultures have the concept of spirit animal guides of some kind, or even deity pantheons with animalistic aspects. Sometimes it's just as simple as expressing a part of the natural personality that is harder to express under normal circumstances, like being a playful puppy, for example, or exposing a vulnerability too risky to expose in other spaces. There's probably a whole video I could make just about what I learned about what it means for these people to find, choose, or create, or discover a fursona. But for me, it was mostly about finding something that simply felt comfortable, natural to be in, not a performance, not a costume, something that I felt like I could express myself in and not feel weird like I was wearing a borrowed shirt. You know what I mean? I started with a hybrid avatar, mixing Legoshi, the main character from an anime I very much enjoy, Beastars, with Johnny Silverhand, a video game character I very much enjoy. Now, Legoshi, like me, is often misunderstood, mistaken for aggressive when really he's just trying to be kind. He's extremely sensitive but internally conflicted, and often not super good at reading the expectations of other people around him. I can relate, especially in my younger days when I was still struggling with figuring out my whole deal. Especially pre-diagnosis for autism and bipolar disorder. And as for Johnny, I love Johnny. For a start, fantastic performance from Keanu Reeves, and we all love Keanu, right? But as a character, I don't really relate to Johnny nearly as deeply, aside from the seething distrust of authority, but I do like the transhumanist nature of cyberpunk in general, and I like thinking about the philosophies around transhumanism that come along with the cyberpunk aesthetic. So I liked having Johnny's cybernetic hand, because it reminded me of that kind of stuff I like to think about and express. But none of that felt quite right when it came to using it as a framing device to understand furries. It felt like a cool costume, but it did feel like a printed t-shirt that told you something about myself, sure. Like I liked Batman or Superman or, Transformers or something, but it wasn't really a fursona properly in my mind, despite Legoshi being a grey wolf anthro, a species really, really common in furry circles. They love their wolves. But it was also a full-cloth fictional character in his own right. I relate to him, and he looks cool, but I don't embody him. Next was something called a Nardovern, a mixture from one of Furrydom's very own fictional species, the Nardoragon, but with wyvern-inspired wings, meaning they're part of the arms, not extra limbs like a dragon wings are, you know, wyvern, dragon, difference. So, Nardovern. And this was just a publicly available avatar, not someone's own custom persona, and when I met someone wearing it, I complimented them on the cool wings. Dude, awesome looking wings. So the wearer responded by inviting me to clone their avatar for myself, and then we went flying. Because the one VR chat world we were in at the time when this happened just happens to have a mechanic coded into it that lets you fly by literally flapping your arms, or indeed, wings. And those wings looked awesome doing that. I flew around for hours, and I've told the story in another recent video, but I got total noodle arms the next day because that motion is not something I do regularly. So doing that for hours on end, it really sort of strained all my muscles around my shoulders and stuff. And anyway, after that, I wore this avatar regularly for a couple of weeks. I loved the texture design, the colors on it, the slight golden glittering across its scales and stuff like that. But it also didn't feel right. The reptilian face didn't really feel very me. Dragons are cool, absolutely, but whenever I saw myself in a virtual mirror, or when I used this avatar on live stream, it looked kind of cool, but it didn't feel like anything more than a costume still. I didn't connect to it properly. But I did know I loved those wings, and with those, I could be expressive in a way that I am not normally. In real life, at least when I'm not on camera, I'm not very physically expressive when talking. In fact, I like to go quite unnoticed. I go very still, and I do not like being the center of attention, so I don't tend to call attention to myself. And I do not dance unless I'm really, really quite drunk. But with these wings, something changed. I stretched out. I took up space. I embraced people with them, literally wrapping myself around them. I got more playful. I even danced. Sober. It's like a fan dance. It was really cool. So I'd figured out the first part of the puzzle. I wanted wings. I wanted wyvern-like wings. Not just accessory wings on my back and not this dragony face. I wanted something more mammalian, softer, friendlier, but still a bit playful. A face that felt cute. Because long before this furry discovery journey, I'd already found out long ago that wearing certain avatars, like this little anime duder in an Umbrian hoodie, made me feel cute. And it made other people treat me as if I was cute. Because to them I was cute. That's what they were saying. Cute little Umbrian dude. And that's not a feeling I get in real life. It was kind of nice to experience that. And only in avatars like this did it feel pleasant having people cross my personal space to give me friendly little head pats, which in VR chat, because your primary senses sight, is a common friendly visual greeting. It's very visually sort of provocative and very sort of intimate and friendly. It's like cosplay in many ways. If you ever cosplayed in real life, you know wearing certain characters can change how you act and react to others. It's part of the play for sure, but it also has some rather deep, properly serious philosophical ties going back to theorems of Plato and Pythagoras. Yeah, now we're getting cerebral, aren't we? Pythagoras? It is perhaps best summed up in a more simple way, in a nerd context, by the core philosophy frequently expressed by the Castian aliens in the short-lived and underrated sci-fi TV series Defiance. Seeming is being. And then I met someone in a very rare species amongst the furries. So rare that even now I've only met 5 others among the literally countless canines and dragons and felines and otters and avians and even a few sharks. I met a bat. And this bat had the exact same wings as my Nardovern model had. That was that. It was in my head now. I sought out a public version of this bat avatar to see how it felt. I don't know why bats are so rare in furry fandom. I've always loved them, especially fruit bats, or flying foxes as they're also known. The biggest bats, mega bats in fact. How cool is that name? Mega bats. And they are the cutest bats, with the little foxy faces and little blappy tongues and dark glistening eyes. How can you not love them? But for whatever reason, it never crossed my mind when I was thinking about this furry stuff, despite considering other Aussie natives as personas like koalas or wombats. So I found the source. Its creator calls it the Nardobat, because this creator also created the Nardovern. It is a variation of the Nardoragon base, only this time with both the arms and the head reworked. So I got the model files, I set to work customizing it, and make it my own. I am not skilled at Blender or Unity, so my work was slow and clumsy and awkward, and I'd like to go further, but I got somewhere that I was happy with, and the skin, the texture, That was a lot closer to my skill set. I was a lot more comfortable editing that. I know I wanted greys in there to reflect my own, grey bearded self. I'm also a big fan of purple. Both my PCs, my keyboard, and my mouse, and indeed my backlighting all share that in common. I love purple. But then halfway through that process of combining purples and blacks and whites, I realized I was creating something that reflected something else about myself, part of my queerness, the demisexual flag. So I leant into that. I extended the delta points on the chest and the shoulders. And finally, version 1.0 of Blunty's very own fursona, a grey-headed flying fox. And rather appropriately, that's an Australian native megabat. Though there is a subspecies called the spectacled, which has slightly more interesting face patterning on it that I'm considering adding, especially after I got roasted by other furries. You'll see why. But I took it into public instances to the furry worlds I was frequented, and I got a lot of enthusiastic reactions and compliments. It felt pretty good. I felt proud of myself and proud of my work. But then, one of the furry streamers I had been frequenting announced that on that day's stream, they would be roasting other people's submitted fursonas. What an opportunity. Let's see a furry pick apart a non-furry's very first attempt at crafting a fursona. There's just as much to learn from criticism as there is from compliments after all. What could possibly go wrong? So let's hear the roasting, shall we? Courtesy of Mossfat and Wolf with 5 Fs.
Anyway, we have a bat. Fuck, man, we have a bat. God damn, we have a blat. We have a bat.
A blat. Blat.
You go first because I'm thinking of one right now. I have several in the chamber, but most of them are like bat racist, and I'm not trying to be bat racist right now.
Bat racist? What do you got against bats? What's wrong with bats? Bats are awesome. Bats are amazing. Bats are important to the world, to the ecosystems. How just bat racist? Is that why I don't see many bats in the furry fandom? Do they carry some baggage with them? I know there is another species whose name I can't remember off the top of my head right now that a lot of furries seem to react suspiciously towards. One of the fictional species. But what's wrong with bats?
Yeah, we're walking the fine line between just. I mean, we can just say basic ass bat, right? I mean, we're kind of in that range right now. It's got the classic spooky bat colors,
Okay, basic from the grey wolf. And the green dog in a hoodie. I'm basic.
We're not stretching out we're not neon, we're not wild, we're just a purple basic ass bat with a pleasant smile and those wings. I don't know. There's not much I can think of here. What do you got?
My man's looks like a clown. My man's literally clowning right now.
The worst part about this is I didn't see it until he said it. But he's right.
Ooh, a mime. It's got mime vibes.
Yeah, it's just a whole ass mime. Sid the sloth looking ass. Jesus Christ, Lone.
Yep. That's embarrassing. It totally has Harlequin face mime vibes. Didn't mean that. That wasn't what I was shooooting for.
Sid the sloth looking ass. Jesus Christ, Lone.
Imagine trying to mime with those wings though. That's gonna be rough.
That's terrible. That's
next level miming if I can do that with the wings.
That's terrible. I'm looking at like real talk. Again, you can be anything you want. Why would you want to be a species that sits upside down and pisses on themselves? Why would you want that in your life? Why would anyone want this? No one wants to be a bat. No one needs to be a bat. No one wants to be a bat.
I want you to listen to the noises Wolf is making at the moment, which started immediately after Mossfet started shaming.
Pisses on themselves. Why would you want that in your life? Why would anyone want this? No one needs to be a bat. If I put a red nose on you, you'd look like a clown. You know that, right? You fucking know that.
I know that now. Ding. I've got to make that toggleable now, don't I? I got to put that on my avatar as a toggle. So just go boop.
Wolf, did I just shame one of your kinks? Did I just shame one of your kinks, Wolf?
Look, we need to talk about that because I feel like I'm exposed in multiple ways right now. I'm finding stuff about my appearance and how I am and now we're shaming in here. No, it's fine. My kink collection is so wide that it'd be trouble not to hit one of my kinks. That's the problem. It's gonna happen.
Lovely little bottom. He's a pleaser, isn't he? He's got all the kinks. So whatever master he's serving at the time can be happy. He'll just adapt to your needs. Like a good little bottom.
Pets are sky puppies. Stop giving them validation. That's not how that works. That's not how that works. Stop giving them validation.
That is how that works. Bats are sky puppies. Back off. That is absolutely how that works. I'm completely validated. I'm not a clown. I'm a sky puppy. Screw you.
Stop giving them validation. They're a bat. They're terrible. They're trying to be spooky. I don't know what.
I wasn't aiming for spooky, by the way. If I wanted spooky, I wouldn't have put such big friendly eyes on. And lovely, calm tertiary colors like purple. That's not spooky, is it? Purple and white? Is that spooky?
Yeah, I don't know what. I don't know.
They're the
what
worst.
It was all in good spirits, of course. Don't take it personally on my behalf or anything. This was all tongue-in-cheek and played for laughs. A little voluntary self-deprecation can be fun and healthy. And Mosfet, the green dog, despite being unstoppably and unapologetically slutty, is actually a pretty damn wholesome and kind person by nature. What you just saw is not representative of their normal vibe on stream. Absolutely not. Their energy is a lot for someone like me, I will tell you that much, but they are lovely. They are so hyper. It's and as for Wolf, with 5 Fs, Wolf, whose stream I've only lurked in briefly once before this, is very much a subby bottom incarnate. So I was having a lot of adorable, flustered trouble being mean enough to play the part of roaster, but they did their best, and they should get treats. You're a good boy. I'm very proud of you. You tried. Good boy. But yeah, Mossy, my little green friend, we have to talk about your bat racism, mate. It's not cool. We gotta get that sorted out. Flying foxes are indeed sky puppies, and aside from being so cool they can do something magnificent that no other mammal can, free flight, they are very important to the ecosystem as wide-ranging fruit seed dispersers and pollinators. In fact, they're just as important as bees when it comes to pollination. They are, in fact, absolutely critical to keeping our native Australian forests healthy and alive and flourishing. So back off, bats are awesome. Basic bitch green dog. Now, I still don't consider myself a furry, even with this step and all the work I put into it, but the process did absolutely help me understand furries better, and that was the point. And I do indeed absolutely fully intend to keep hanging out with furries, because hey, do you know what I found while trying to get to know this odd little subculture surrounded by so much hostility and misunderstanding and confusion and assumptions? I found, while the cliches exist for a reason, and some of them are highly sexually charged, and there's a lot of provocative artwork out there to be sure, I challenge you to find a fandom that doesn't have that. And by the way, the furry fandom seems to have a much more tightly clustered range of extremely talented artists than most fandoms do. Like ridiculously good artists in furry fandom. But yeah, like every fandom has that aspect of it. Every fandom has that aspect. It just feels a bit weird, perhaps, here, because they're anthro-cartoon kind of characters, and the context we'll start with on that is, like I said in the opening, much more innocent childhood experiences. So that transition to treating it as adult stuff can be a bit jarring. I get it. And there is absolutely a lot of really cringy behavior in the furry fandom, including barking and squeaking at each other and yipping and similar kinds of play like that. But it's not without self-awareness. The cringe is extremely deliberate. They know exactly how cringe they are being, and that's the point. If you've ever taken an acting or improv class, you'll know there are some very cringe exercises people are asked to do in that process. And it's for the same reason. It's a way of breaking down interpersonal barriers, the sociological constructs that keep us separate from one another. It's play. Stupid, goofy, awkward, cringy play designed to relax and connect people in that goofiness. And while I am yet to make bat squeaking sounds myself, I don't think that's who I am, even when I'm inside the bat. But after an extended interaction with a furry who only communicated in squeaks and postures and gestures when they were in a specific persona they had, they talk normally when they switch their avatar, but in this particular avatar, it was just squeaks and body language. And that behavior absolutely changed how I interacted with them in that moment. Just like how people change how they interact with me when I wear my 3-foot-tall Umbream hoodie-wearing anime-style avatar. Same thing. So that was another aha moment for me when I started to really get it. There are far more completely wholesome people in this fandom than outsiders realize, by the way. In fact, so many of them are gentle and kind and open and generous and loving, which is also combined with being either wonderfully completely wholesome to a point where it's ridiculous and cartoony, to unstoppably slutty. The extreme dichotomy of which is an adventure in and of itself, but that stuff is a whole other video, maybe. Meanwhile, I hope you found this all interesting, and thank you to all the furries I've met along my journey so far who have kindly tolerated my ignorance and my questions, and despite being an outsider, never ever once made me feel anything but absolutely welcome. You are wonderful people, and I wish more people understood that about you. Hopefully this helps. And thank you as always to the patrons scrolling up above there who do their best to help me in my journey, doing my thing. I appreciate you very, very much also. So I'm Bloody, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Squeaker, squeaker, squeak. Have you seen my acorn? Wrong. That's squirrels, isn't it? Have you seen my mango?